Hi, darlings. So today's video is going to be all about the number one behavior that actually keeps you stuck in insecurity, preventing you from elevating into your majestic confidence. So your majestic confidence is the aspect of you that contains the qualities of self-trust and initiative, perseverance, and courage. And it's a common misconception that confidence means that you have to be perfect and that you're not going to have any fear or any insecurity at all. But as you're on your spiritual healing journey, you may actually still experience that distorted inner narrative try to creep in from time to time. And that distorted inner narrative is the part of you that might try to convince you that you're not good enough. It might try to convince you that men are going to hurt you, or that you're always going to be abandoned or rejected, or that you're not good enough in some way. So confidence is actually not about getting rid of that side of you completely. It's more about learning how to integrate that part of yourself so that you're not acting on the feelings, and so that you still allow yourself to remain grounded in who you are, so that you can explore the possibilities that are out there for you, rather than before, where if you were believing your insecurity and allowing it to control you, it would keep you stuck in your comfort zone and hold you back. So you see, it's actually okay to have negative thoughts from time to time. In fact, it's human. It's a normal part of being human. But confidence, majestic confidence, is more about what you choose to do with your behavior and what you choose to allow to drive your life. So either you allow that insecurity to drive your life and letting it infect your behavior, keeping you stuck in that dysfunction, or you can learn the proper healing techniques to integrate that fear and learn how to transmute and neutralize that charge that it holds over you. And then over time, that's going to give you the ability to still be able to go after what you want anyway, even if you are feeling those things. So let me give some examples on that. So let's say that you're dating and you meet a really good quality man. He's a high quality guy, that supreme energy, divine masculine kind of man who treats you really well. But you start to feel really uneasy. You start to feel really anxious. Flashbacks of your ex starts to pop up, and you start to think this new guy is going to act like your ex was. Maybe that little voice in the back of your head is like, jabbering away, trying to convince you that, this guy is going to hurt you, or that he's going to reject you. You're feeling like you're not good enough, or feeling like he's too good to be true. So you have two options here. Either the majestic thing to do would be to explore that fear that's coming up for you and getting to the root of what's there for you. And the self-inquiry of doing that is what's going to allow you to get to the core of what's there, start to rewire that inner narrative, that inner story that's trying to control your behavior and your life. And then doing that allows you to take away and neutralize some of that emotional charge that it's causing for you. And that allows you to remain solid in who you are and still show up with this man with a lot of courage and with your personal power to at least try and get to know him anyway. But what most women would probably do is allow that insecurity to infect their behavior. So let's say she's starting to feel that self-doubt come up, but then she begins to actually act on it. She might do that by making really passive-aggressive comments to try to test him and see what he'll put up with in order to push him away. Maybe she starts to feel really powerless and she gets really needy and codependent, feeling like he's too good for her. Maybe she starts to excessively text him or chase after him or try to chase him to get his approval. Or maybe she starts to look for flaws and starts complaining about really pointless things to use as an excuse to push him away. So you see, this kind of woman is acting this way because she's actually feeling inadequate within herself. That fear that's coming up for her is trying to convince her to self-sabotage the situation. But because she doesn't know how to really deal with that, she ends up letting it infect her behavior, which ends up pushing the guy away. So it creates that self-fulfilling prophecy where she'll probably end up saying something like, oh, I knew he was too good to be true, or I knew he wasn't real, or whatever. She'll probably say something like that. She'll start to blame him for things ending, not really realizing that it was actually her controlling or negative or needy behavior that actually caused him to lose interest. Another example would be, let's say you see another beautiful, confident woman near you, and it begins to stir up some anxiousness within you. The confident thing to do would be to notice what's coming up for you, process what's there for you, being able to see and dig through to see what fear is there, listening into your soul to see what it's trying to show you and what it's trying to tell you, using your exercises to get to the core of what's there so that you can rewire that inner story that might be feeling like she's better than you in some way. That would be the majestic thing to do. But what many women would probably do is completely neglect their inner world and allow that insecurity to run their life. So what that means is maybe she'll start being mean to the other girl or making really, passive aggressive mean comments to diminish her in some way. Or maybe even worse, she starts to be mean to herself because she's feeling inadequate and feeling that self-doubt or that shame. And she starts to have a lot of negative self-talk or abusive behavior or talking to herself. So you see, confidence is really not about you trying to be perfect. It's not about you trying to get rid of your fear or get rid of your insecurity. Majestic confidence is more about you having the faith within yourself and the courage to be able to remain solid no matter what's going on for you. So there's a difference between you feeling a fear and then processing it, knowing how to rewire that story so that you are able to remain grounded in who you are as it passes through, versus you feeling a fear, but then allowing it to completely consume you from the inside out, letting it hold you back, letting it, making you self-sabotage, or even worse, start being mean to other people because you feel shame within yourself. It's driving you to try to shame other people because you don't feel good about yourself. So I have a women's platform, so I speak to women in my topics, but this can actually happen with men as well. So I want to share an example with that. From last year, I came across a guy who was clearly starting to feel a little bit anxious and uneasy when he was around me. So now the confident thing for him to do would have been to figure out where that was coming from within him, which was most likely some kind of baggage or trust issues from his ex that was starting to come up for him. If he would have dealt with all of that, if he would have had that mature self-inquiry with himself, he would have saw that I had nothing to do with what he was feeling. And that would have allowed him to actually see me clearly and get to know me as a person without projecting all of that stuff onto me. But instead, what do you think he did? He allowed it to infect his behavior. He allowed that insecurity to drive his behavior. And, different things like passive aggressive comments, saying things like implying that I was too good to be true, or that I was just telling him what he wanted to hear, assuming that I had false intentions. He got really needy, taking information that I would say and Googling me to find me on social media. His behavior just got really weird because all of that insecurity was driving him to act really desperately, and because he desperately needed that control. He felt really out of control around me. And I'm not interested in being around people like that. So of course that situation ended, but I'm sure like in his mind, he was probably thinking, oh, I knew it was too good to be true. I knew she wasn't real. I knew she wasn't going to stay. That was probably what he was telling himself. But the reality is that everything on my end was genuine, but it was his behavior that caused that situation to end. So can you see how blinded and driven he was by his own negative imprinting, that he couldn't really see and receive what was actually there? So I want you to reflect on, where do you see that in yourself? How often do you do that to yourself? How often do you allow your insecurity and your distorted thinking to really hold you back and sabotage you from good experiences? This distorted thinking, this insecurity, if you don't know how to process that and integrate all of that, it's going to have you making up stories. It's going to have you seeing things that are not actually there. It's going to have you making false assumptions about other people and their character before you even really know them. And it's going to just have you hold back. It's going to hold you back from the love that you really want, and the success that you really want, or the friendships that you really want, and the confidence that you really want. So insecurity to me is when you allow these feelings to hold you back, when you allow these feelings to convince you that you're not good enough. Confidence, majestic confidence, is more about you feeling what's there for you, integrating that, allowing that little story to flow through, the little peanut gallery, allowing it to kind of flow through and pass through, but not letting any of it consume you. and still remaining solid in your truth no matter what. And when you have that approach, it's the repetition of that allows you to, that's what leads you into that embodied, authentic personal power over time. So take a look at what you might be struggling with in life. Let's use the example of men and dating again. So you probably have a lot of decent quality guys that are around you right now, but it might be your distorted thinking that's kind of ruining things before it even gets a chance to begin. Or maybe you're looking for excuses to push it all away. And sometimes this is not even conscious. Most likely it isn't conscious. A lot of the behavior we have is unconscious, and you might be doing things that you might not even realize that you're doing, because a lot of people don't really know how to deal with their uncomfortable feelings. They allow that insecurity to control their life. Whereas the majestic thing to do would be to break down what's coming up for you so that it no longer drives your life. And when you had that approach, eventually that allows you to start making new choices that are no longer driven by fear, and it allows you to remain solid in who you are. And that's what builds that self-trust and that security and that courage. So even for me, I can share my personal experience with all of this. Even when I come on here to do videos, sometimes that little voice is still in the back of my head that's telling me, don't do it, turn the computer off, don't film anything, what are you doing, don't go on camera, but I use all of the signature healing methods that I teach my clients. I actually use myself as well for moments like this, and they are very powerful techniques that allow you to dissolve a lot of that intense emotional charge that's coming up for you, and that's what allows you to remain solid and do what you need to do anyway without that fear or that insecurity holding you back and consuming you. So I want to hear from you. Where do you hold yourself back and allow your distorted thinking to keep you stuck in these insecure patterns? And what is that costing you? Either you can stay in that comfort zone of insecurity, which provides a lot of control, but there's no fulfillment that's there. Or you can learn how to integrate that wounding and integrate all of that unresolved stuff within you so that it no longer drives your life. And that's what's going to allow you to blossom into that enchanting life that you really want. And if you do want to learn the signature exercises that I'm talking about that I use on myself and with my clients, then make sure to reach out to me about my mentoring and about my programs, and I can let you know where to go for all of that, so that you can awaken your own signature flavor of your majestic confidence. And that is this state of, it allows you to become this oasis of luscious strength within you. And when you are that oasis of luscious strength, that's when you see that timeless, everlasting beauty begin to awaken. That's when you start to feel that rock solid security, that safety within your own body, that safety within yourself, that self-trust within yourself. And it just awakens this youthful, vivacious inner glow that those supreme energy men can't resist. All right, ladies, thank you for joining me. Thank you for showing up. If this sparked anything in you, if you have any insights or questions or comments, leave them down below. I would love to chat with you and hear from you. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you all next time. All right, take care.